Hi guys, Nick here, and today we're going to discuss watering your houseplants and how I go about it. I know that seems like a very basic thing, almost like Houseplant 101, but there's actually quite a few ways to go about watering your houseplants, so we're going to discuss a few of the ways today. So before we get into watering itself, let's quickly chat about soil and drainage. So when you purchase your plants from the nursery or wherever you buy your plants from, the soil is going to contain an array of ingredients, whether that's peat moss, coconut coir, perlite, what have it. So they're typically not very good at drying out from my experience, specifically the larger pots or the larger plants that come in larger pots. With that in mind, it's really important to check before you water your plants to see how moist your soil is. So you can do that in multiple ways. You could simply stick your finger in down to your second knuckle and feel if you feel any moisture. You could use a moisture meter which is an actual like gizmo that you stick in the soil and it'll tell you after a few minutes how moist the soil is. Or alternatively, if you've had your plant for quite some time, you might be able to just pick up the plant and feel how heavy the soil is compared to when you water it. So obviously, wet soil is going to be heavier than dry soil. You can use whatever method works best for you. It's just really important to make sure that your soil's not too wet before you water your plants, or that can cause overwatering. It's also pretty important to make sure that your pot has adequate drainage. In almost all cases, that's going to be a drainage hole. I would recommend drilling a hole in your pot if it doesn't already have one. You can actually find a little short tutorial on that on my Instagram at Philly Foliage, or I will probably be doing an instructional, more hands-on video soon in the future. I've also heard of people putting stones in the bottom of their pots without a drainage hole, but in my experience that doesn't really help because the water's still not able to go anywhere. So if you're absolutely not able to drill a hole in the bottom of your pot, I would recommend putting some activated charcoal in because that's going to help balance the soil's pH and remove toxins from the soil. With all that out of the way, let's begin talking about watering. So the first and by far most classic way of watering your plants is by watering from the top. Right here I have this Peperomia obtusifolia that not only feels very light to me, but it's in a peat moss based mixture, so I can see that it's began to pull away from the edges of the pot, indicating to me that it's ready to be watered. You just simply slowly pour some water in the top of your pot, and you allow it to absorb. And then once it gets to absorbing, you'll pour a little bit more in until the water starts to drain into the saucer in the bottom of the pot. So it's really important that you make sure that the soil is saturated all the way through. And some people will even bring their plants into the bathtub and water all of them there so it allows them, just drain freely without having to go empty the saucer. I have a little too many plants to, move everything around, but I definitely would recommend that to you guys. If you do have a smaller amount of plants, it's probably a lot easier, especially when fertilizing your plants. So yeah, we're just waiting for this soil to begin to absorb the water. We'll add a little bit more. And now we're just going to wait for it to begin to drain. And then if all the soil or all the water absorbs into the pot, we're just going to add more until it starts draining into the saucer. If you have a pot that doesn't have a drainage hole, what you're going to do is after you've watered, you can just tip the pot on its side and any excess water will begin to accumulate on the side of the pot, and you can use a sponge or anything that's absorbent to absorb all that water to avoid your plant from sitting in it. While watering the top of the soil is the most classic way of watering your plants, it's not exactly the best way. And the reason behind this is, while it looks like the soil is completely saturated when I watered it from the top and it leaking through the bottom, it always isn't like that. It's very common that when you water your plants from the top that there's actually, if you dig down just a little bit, dry soil. And that is the case right here. So what we're going to do is talk about the second way of watering my plants, which is how I usually go about watering my plants, which is watering from the bottom. When you water your plants from the bottom, you know that you're giving them a sufficient watering. To do so, all you're going to need is a bowl. Any kind will do, as long as the plant pot will fit inside the bowl. So right here today we're going to use this Peperomia occlusifolia red margin, and you're just simply going to place the plant in the bowl. You're going to slowly fill up the bowl about 1 inch to 1.5 inches of water because you don't want to flood the plant, and you're just going to allow the plant to soak up the water through its drainage hole at the bottom, and just wait a few minutes. If the water's all gone and the top of the soil is not wet, then add a little bit more, but what you're waiting to see is the top of the soil wet, although you watered it through the drainage hole. So that's just telling you that the entire soil has sucked up all of the water that it needs, and then from there you can just lift the plant out of the pot, allow it to drip, and then place it back on your saucer. This is such an efficient way to water your plants in my opinion, And it's pretty easy to do. You just put your plants in, you forget about them, come back 10 minutes later, see if they're watered. If not, add more water. It's very convenient in my opinion. And obviously there's some plants that maybe are too big to fit in a bowl and you just want to water them from the top. That's totally fine. I just wanted to share this with you guys. So if you're having trouble with your plants, or if any of them, you're watering them and maybe it doesn't seem like they're actually being watered, this could be the case. But I definitely recommend this. There are also a few more advanced methods to try. For that, I'm gonna recommend you to this video by Summer Rain Oaks where she talks about her watering hacks. It's a very good video. I haven't personally tried any of these hacks, but once I get a little bit more in depth with my collection, I will definitely be trying them out, specifically the hydro spikes, so look out for those. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions and have a wonderful day.